Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for FourCast is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This episode of FourCast is brought to you by MailRoute.info. MailRoute is a secure hosted service that provides enterprise-grade virus and spam filtering to companies of any size. Try it right now, absolutely free, at MailRoute.info.
What sort of future do you think we're heading for? How will we live as we slip into the 21st century?
Welcome to FourCast, episode 61, the last FourCast of 2010. I'm Tom Merritt.
And I'm Scott Johnson.
It's our last chance to get in predictions about 2011 before it's 2011.
Oh, Tom, happy holidays, by the way.
Hey, happy holidays, man.
Yeah, very exciting as we lead into a brand new year. I can't imagine what FourCast will hold. Actually, aren't we getting kind of close to a few of our early predictions, like our first few episodes anyway?
That's true. Actually, Roger Chang had made a prediction about Congress that I think actually came true.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's some others. We need to do a little tracking. Maybe some of the fans out there can help us. But
maybe that's a way to get people to do the show twice, is to have them come back and check in on their predictions.
We should have been, actually, one of our predictions should have been, we should be making people do like a year-long prediction and then come back that following year.
Oh, yeah.
It's too late now. But we have some opportunities to see if people's predictions held up. But today, we have two brand new guests, don't we?
Yes, we do. Joining us is Corrinne Lewis, Program Manager, Entertainment Arts and Engineering, Master Games Studio. Welcome, Corrinne.
Hi, everybody.
How's it going? It's great to have you on the show. I believe you may know our other guest, Roger Altizer, Creative Director, Entertainment Arts and Engineering, Master Games Studio, who also works for the PlayStation Guide at About.com.
Hello, everybody.
Or should
Great
I say
to have
works
you both
on.
here. I've known Corinne, wait, hold on. Let's figure out the dates here. I've known you since 92, so how long ago was that?
Oh, my God. Well, almost 20 years, I suppose. If maybe we'll make it to 20 years if the Mayan calendar thing doesn't actually occur.
I don't know. That sounds like a prediction to me.
Yeah. It's really weird. I should mention, and it's too big to put in her lower third, but Corinne is also kind of the chief architect of helping me get Nerdtacular off the ground every year, and we're banging it up
fantastic
this year for 2011 as well. So it's awesome to have you both here. They're both major gaming nerds, so I'm guessing we're going to have some gaming predictions today, I hope. I'm pretty excited about that.
Maybe, just maybe.
Is it okay that I am not in Utah right now and I'm still on the show?
You know, you're just not as cool as we are. Sorry,
I know,
Tom.
but I'm hoping that you'd let me on anyway.
Yeah.
We'll adopt you.
Yeah.
We'll adopt you. You're
this once.
We'll call you
We'll send you some
temporary.
snow.
You can be Roseanne Barr for the next hour.
Oh, let's not have anybody be Roseanne Barr.
Not sure how I feel about that.
That's not really the best thing that came out of Utah.
Let's move on to our prediction from a listener. This one comes from Chuck Byers. I'm going to read it in reverse order. Here's his prediction. Then he has an explanation. His prediction is, for the future, one day after doing our business in public restrooms, we will put both hands into a slit in a rubber or neoprene mat, either where a sink used to be or in the wall, and our hands will be rinsed, washed, vacuumed, dried, and sanitized. This will lead to massive reduction in our immune systems, and a worldwide pandemic will occur, wiping out half of the Western world's population. In the opening paragraph, he says, look, I'm 48 years old. I've seen our public restrooms evolve over the years into what you see today. I remember going to the Elks Club bathroom. There was a communal bar of soap, spring-loaded faucets that would not stay down unless you held them open, and cloth towels that you needed to pull down to get a dry section. His theory is that all kept our immune systems nice and strong, fighting off the germs.
I have nothing to comment about men's restrooms.
I think he's probably right, and he's probably onto something. Because the other day, I had my first experience with a public bathroom that had one of those, like, I don't even know how to describe it, but it was very Star Trek-y, and it had like a kind of an open mouth to it, and you put your hands in it,
and you slowly pull them up, right?
Yeah, and it was like a weird kind of, I don't know. My hands were drier quicker than any other experience I'd had in a public bathroom, and while that probably isn't remarkable in its way to clean your hands anyway. It definitely keeps them dry. How soon will I be putting my hands in the wall and getting the full treatment? I don't think it's that far off. I think it's actually
we have them
fairly
at Utah.
accurate.
We actually have them at the University of Utah. They're these cleaning alcoves. And it's like this big hole in the wall. You put your hands in it, and it puts the water on your hands. It puts the right amount of soap on your hands. And then when you wash your hands and when you're done moving, it dries. So everything in one hole in the men's restroom.
Weird.
Oh, it's kind of creepy.
And it's
really
kind of what
like
this, it's actually, water, right? It's what Chuck is predicting pretty much.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's exactly what he's talking about. You just go up to it and you stick your hands in there and then you pull them out and they're magically clean. But I think he's right about the pandemic, right? I think that, The Office recently did a thing on that where you should have hand desanitizing stations, bowls of lukewarm water that have been sitting around so you can dip your hands in them and build up your immune system.
I think all you need are bowls of Chex Mix, because isn't that been
That's the same thing,
shown that people transfer germs through Chex Mix all the time at holiday parties?
You just go to holiday parties. That's what's going to keep us alive.
I think, I think that becomes a public policy in most corporations is to have Chex Mix out at all times.
Right.
To help balance out the effects. No,
that's a solid prediction, yeah.
How serious is this idea that if we're too clean, it'll compromise our immune systems? On the one hand, there's such a thing as the cyclosan antibacterial soaps that actually breed superbugs because they don't kill all the bacteria, so only the strongest, most virulent, most antibacterial soap-resistant bacteria survive. That's a bad thing, in my opinion, and those should not be used in widespread areas, and they are being reduced in their ability to be used. But at the same time, isn't it like one of the reasons we have a longer life expectancy and a greater population because we do wash our hands more regularly? I mean, I think that's a good thing.
A lot more people are alive today because of hand washing than not. I mean, cholera, for one thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kills, what's going on in Haiti right now. It's like without sanitation, I think a lot more people would die.
It's all about how far they take it. So it seems like a hole in the wall that does the three things that you need to do, which is, rinse, wash, rinse again, and towel. I don't think that alone is that's not ultra sanitary. Like, that's not a clean room at Intel for the next Core 7 chip. That's like just a hole in the wall that does this thing that you used to have to do a lot more work for. Maybe we'll get flabbier because we're putting our hands in walls and just standing there and not doing anything active. I don't know. But it seems like that alone isn't enough to put us into this pandemic state. But what Tom says, I think, is true. If we are doing things that only kill off bacteria that are too weak and the strong continue to survive and mutate, that's where we get kind of hosed. So that hole in the wall thing doesn't really do that, in my opinion. So I say more holes in the wall, and way to go, Utah, for pioneering this great new sanitation.
Well, you're also kind of counting on people to actually wash their hands, right?
The hole in the walls came from first, Utah.
Yeah. It came from Utah, Tom.
Yeah, we invented it. We're a hole in the wall kind of state.
It's my favorite bar in Austin, Texas. Till they,
we actually have a hole in the wall, like a place where cowboys hung out in southern Utah somewhere. I've driven by that before.
Oh yeah. It's that big hole in the rock where cowboys washed their hands and killed off, Wild West germs back in the day. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Sanitized the cowboys.
Yeah. Oh,
cows.
Yeah. We would not have the cattle population we have today if they didn't wash their hands.
I believe the drovers would come up from New Mexico and take the cows through there to sanitize them on their way to Montana.
I think that's pretty accurate. Yeah.
If I have my Western history correct.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure I do. All right,
let's averted the pioneer pandemic. All those cowboys.
Right, exactly. That's why they built it. All right, let's move on to our short-term predictions. These are things you think will happen sooner than later, maybe in the next few years. And Corrinne, let's start with you. What do you think when you look into your short-term crystal ball?
Well, speaking of Chex Mix, I also write for a local restaurant review blog, and it seems like at this time of the year, you're constantly eating out, you're constantly not going to the gym because you don't have time. And so I think that, I don't know if you have ever seen the thing called the body bug. It actually attaches to your arm. It's a current, item that you can buy from Amazon.com, and it will track your steps. It's like a very sophisticated pedometer. Well, my prediction is that within the next couple of years, whatever that is, will turn into something that actually also figures out how many calories you've eaten, and it will tell you exactly how many bites of whatever you're eating you should eat, or you need to burn the more calories. And I don't know if it'll be your phone or if it'll be some RFID type device implanted in you, but I think that in the next very short period of time, that will happen.
I love this idea. So if you see, this is the reason, this is why this technology needs to happen, because I find my current lifestyle, and Corrinne, you and I were just talking about this a couple of weeks ago, how hard it is to kind of manage like the regular exercise time with all the things you have to do and all the demands for attention that we have. I would love it if something was constantly saying, now would be a good time for a snack, Mr. Johnson. So I'd go get one, and it would tell me exactly what I could do and what I could get. It would maybe even make recommendations. A granola bar we think would be a good idea today.
You're low on potassium. Have a banana.
Exactly. Be able to cater my food based on my current metabolic makeup. Like, what am I currently processing? What am I missing? Do I need more sodium? Do I have too much sodium? A little candy may not hurt because maybe sugar is what I need.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. This is a great idea. Patent it.
I hope somebody can make it. I read a book a long time ago from Michio Kaku. I think you guys actually talked about this last time, but it was, you'll go into your doctor's office and you'll be able to, they'll take a sample of blood and it'll tell you, if you have cancer or something. And then, maybe we'll have MRIs in our home, but why can't we just do that little, calorie thingy earlier?
Seems a little naggy.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, it seems like a nag. This device is going to sit around and say, put down the Twinkie, right?
Every woman will buy it.
Do you need another Ghirardelli caramel chocolate, Tom?
Yeah, but will they also strap it to every man? Is that the problem that we're going to have with the nag device, It's going to be, you do not deserve that beer, do not drink that.
Well, we're assuming it's going to speak to us. I think it could just give us a nice little boop, boop and go, and look down at it and say, it says I need to whatever. And I think you could do it through your phones or something like that and just have it say, you're a little short on potassium. How about a banana? And just say it in text. I can still ignore it. I mean, that's still kind of a problem, actually, because the things I use now, I kind of ignore or I learn to ignore. And I want something that will really, get after me if I'm not doing what I should be doing. Like, we told you to eat a banana half an hour ago. Now look at you,
I think it should shock you. So, like, if it's a watch, just goes,
This is the concern everyone has, right? Now it's going to shock you into eating what you want.
I can choose to have the beer and be shocked. It's right. I don't think that it's my choice.
I have a friend, Rich, who is known for drinking heavily, eating deep fried Twinkies and cheeseburgers from In-N-Out. Like, he ordered a 40 by 40 at In-N-Out once. I think if he had this device on him, it would just be all question marks and look at him like, I don't even know where to begin.
Well, you would have to choose to wear it, right?
Yes, it's not. You're not saying this. Let's be clear about that. You're not saying it's the law. It's just something you would buy, and because you want to be healthy.
Pedometers right now. Exactly. Well, not everybody, but I mean, I do. So it's I'm constantly concerned. Have I had my 10,000 steps today?
Yeah,
I'd like to know. Can I have that beer? Can I have that whatever?
It would be cool as if it would be hooked up with some kind of semantic artificial intelligence that was like, okay, we get it. You deserve that. You deserve that beer. You worked hard today. It'd be able to tell, like, all right, you're going to stretch it a little day. I see that. Well, we're going to have to double down tomorrow then. Okay?
Right. Yeah. Right. You better really continue to lift that weight 12 more times, to burn off that chocolate bonbon you had earlier.
The easy way road to this happening, I think, is we have other predictions all the time about brain implants and having those do things for us and remind us of things and kind of be our HUD and we'd have all sorts of sort of UI that we could view through our head or whatever. Just include this as part of that, and you would then think about it. If we're going to have chips in our head that do lots of crazy things, they're going to be firmware upgradable. They're going to have crazy new versions that do cool new things, and one of them could be this sort of keep track of your weight and keep track of your intake, and it's just part of another system.
Chip in your head keeps the chips out of your stomach.
Soon enough for me. I want it in 2 years.
The anti-chips. But would people try and resist it? Like, will there be a whole underground industry of people trying to then mask their foods? It'll be like people try and mask steroid usage,
well,
so they don't get caught, right? So you're saying, well, I got this chip in my head regulating what I eat. So how can I sneak chips and how can I sneak booze? And is there a way to mask it?
Yeah, it's called not using the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's called not using it. It's in your head, though, right? We
turned it off,
didn't we?
Right.
Oh, come back. 2 years. I want it now, really.
I also wanted to tell me what would be good to eat. Like, as part of it evaluating my nutrition and what I should eat, I want it to be able to tell, like, based on your metabolic makeup and your tastes and everything, this is what's going to taste good to you.
Well, couldn't you see? I mean,
That'd be
it would
nice.
have the information from like a restaurant, so you go and sit down, and it would say, "Hey, the Chiapino is the right thing for you to eat," or you've been really good. You could have the clam chowder.
A lot of times when I'm at a restaurant, I look at a menu and I'm like, I have no idea. And then you just order something, and then Eileen, my wife, orders something, and I'm like, I should have ordered that. That looks much better. I want it to be able to eliminate that. Say, not only is this healthy and exactly what you need for the balance of your metabolic system, but you're also going to love it. Mm-hmm. It's like a little mini Steve Jobs diet recommender. You're going to love what we ordered for you.
I really want this to be on the market right now for Christmas.
All right, I'm in. Let's move over to you, Roger. Short-term predictions in the next few years or so, maybe not that far off. What do you think? What do you got?
Okay, so I think in the next few years, we're really going to see a rise in sort of gamification, this idea of moving games and game mechanics past just consoles and computer games into regular aspects of our life. And this term gamification gets tossed around a lot, but you can see, MasterCard saying, well, one way to get people to start paying their bills on time is to reward them, right? And so you give them some sort of reward beyond just miles or things you could turn in for vacations, but you make a game out of it, right? And you connect it to all sorts of other reward systems. So I think from education to paying your bills to weight loss, you're going to see a lot of people using game mechanics and game strategies to try and get people to do things they may not normally enjoy as much.
So do you specifically see a who's next in your mind? Who adopts some of this game theory and puts it into something that's maybe a more traditional industry or something like that?
Oh, I think we're already starting to see it in sales, right? I think that you're starting to see car companies, for example, giving you rewards that if you buy this car, you can have the virtual version of it in a game, things like that. But I really think it's going to happen with bills first. I think that people are going to figure out a way to make it more interesting to pay your bills. Because if you think of a lot of games like a Sim City or a Civilization or a Farmville, half of that's just moving things around and paying more interesting bills anyway. So if your credit card companies and your power companies could all figure out a way to make that more interesting for you, where you get rewards and your character levels up or you level up for doing this, I think people will buy into it pretty quickly.
Yeah, just the achievements system alone points the way to this, where you actually don't get anything out of an achievement. It doesn't improve your game necessarily. It's just something to brag about. And if there was some sort of vacuuming achievement or some house cleaning achievement, I could see this being a great thing, for anybody, your kids or your family. It's sort of just as a motivator, just using that reward system that's activated by gaming. I think that's brilliant.
So my armor in World of Warcraft will be more sparkly if I clean my house?
Well, you could be rewarded in World of Warcraft, but think about it, you're all already playing that same game, right? Like everybody's already paying the garbage bill, right? And so you can compare yourself and say, well, Roger's a trash master because he pays on time and he knows how to recycle and hasn't got any recycling violations. And you're already in. Like a lot of your friends aren't playing WoW, right? But all of your friends are playing, Garbageville, right? If that's what you rename your garbage bill.
Interestingly enough, there is an effort on, I want to say Android has this as well. I'm not sure this app's available there yet, but on the iPhone, there's an app called Epic Win. A lot of people talked about for a long time. I used it for a while and kind of quit using it because I think it needs to go further. But their core idea is kind of down that road. It's essentially a productivity to-do app. It's to-dos. It's literally go to the grocery store, stop by the bank, fill the car with gas, and clean up that cat puke in the backyard or whatever. And you got those all on your list of things to do. And when you do them, you get XP for that. And that XP translates to leveling up a character, an avatar in the app. And that avatar gets better armor, better weapons, better whatever. And you can kind of choose what stats you want to throw at them. And ultimately, it doesn't really do anything tangible except turn mundane tasks into a game. So it sounds like there's some early efforts to kind of create that sort of thing and apply it to different kinds of thinking. How far or how long do you think it'll take? I realize this is short term, but how long do you think it'll take for us to get this in a more mainstream way and have it be part of our taxes and our bill paying and everything else?
Well, think it already exists like in education. So, for example, when you were in grade school and you got stars for doing quizzes and doing your homework, and they put the stars on the board and you compared them against somebody else, right? And you had more stars, so therefore you were more deserving of a pummeling over at recess. You could say that this, I think this is really going to happen soon. A lot of the conferences are talking about this. Gamification is sort of a term that's being tossed around a lot. How do we make game mechanics more accessible to people? I think the real hook has been all those Facebook games that are teaching core game mechanics to a wide variety of people who've never played games before, and has been very motivating for them to do things like click cows, right? And so can you make that more interesting? So I think there are a lot of big corporations looking at how do we make this a reality for us? How do we get people to do the things we want them to do and to motivate them in different ways? I know there are lots of government grants out there right now for trying to figure out ways, especially in the medical fields, ways of motivating people to adhere to drug regimes or to exercise regimes or to whatever it is their doctor tells them to do. And are there ways to make games a reality in this? So there's a lot of interest in it, and there's a lot of money out there right now in it.
Yeah, I was just recommending on This Week in Google last week the email game from Baydin, BAYDIN.com, which is an attempt to try to get you to take control of your email inbox and get to inbox zero by turning it into a game. You get points for answering emails, for taking action upon emails, for cutting your inbox down to a certain amount. So it works. It's still in its early stages. It needs a little more development, but the idea is totally right, which is, we're going to reward you for good behavior.
Yeah, and that's a game I clearly need to play. I mean, my email inbox is out of control. So that would be highly motivating for me personally.
Well, check it out, BAYDIN.com. I'm not a stockholder, nor do I get any money for that.
And now you've got a new advertiser next week. It's working out great already.
Maybe. I don't know. I'll disclose if that happens. All right, let's move on to the long-term predictions. We'll stick with you, Roger. These are more of the in 100 years we'll all be in flying cars sort of thing. What do you got?
All right, so I have two, but one of them's keeping in the same thing, so I think I'm going to run with this one. I think you're going to see democracy through Farmville. All right, and so as we've seen just a massive rise in these social casual games, and they're being used for people to communicate all sorts of information to each other. So I think that in 100 years, maybe a little bit more, that you're going to see these games become slightly more complex, but that the actions of those games are how governments are going to run their countries. And so people will be playing these games on Facebook. It'll be Farmville will be the new Diebold, right? That's how you'll make decisions about what happens in the country, by determining how many people click what thing in games.
Does that mean I have to harvest my votes?
Well, they're going to be harvesting your votes, right? So you're going to be clicking, do we build schools or do we build pool halls? And if everyone builds pool halls, then next year you'll have a lot of pool halls.
I left my vote in the field too long and it spoiled, though.
But your friend can revive it, right? That's why it's democratic.
Okay, good.
Because
right.
It's one click per person, right? Everyone gets a click.
Your vote has spoiled. Scott Johnson
has
revived it.
Does this drive down the line, and Corrinne, you can speak to this as well, but is this kind of like what we see? I'm part of what we believe to be, anyway, currently the world's largest guild in World of Warcraft. And what we found in that guild...
Well, it's actually broken into several guilds now, Scott.
Well, yeah, now we were forced to break apart. But if you count us all up, we're still pretty big. And I don't know what it ultimately means about politics or about civics or about any of those sorts of things, or even about human behavior. But we have found that the guild has become a microcosmic petri dish, if you will, of kind of like politics and procedure and policy and weird stuff we didn't think we would ever see in there. I mean, at first it was just, hey, a fun place for us to all come and play. But now we have kind of a hierarchy of leadership, and we have jobs that have to get done, and we have some people who are getting overworked, and we have some who aren't, and some complain and some don't. We have a bunch of players who love us, a bunch of players who are, think it's gotten too big, and there's other players who feel different ways. And we've just learned that is a small version of what real government or real, not civil engineering, but we have to kind of run a town, as it were. And do you feel like games in general, as they become more massively multiplayer, without trying to coin the common phrase, but literally massively multiplayer games like Farmville, I think certainly qualifies in a very real way in that kind of category. Do you feel like all these kinds of games are they teaching us something toward this goal or toward this end? that one day we'll get to a point and go, oh, well, all this experience in Farmville and everything that kind of came up organically in these experiences that the developers had no idea would, those have helped us be better people, or we built better games because of it, or like, what is the point of all of it in the end?
Money.
Civilization is the most
Sorry,
massive
I need to be the pessimist here.
of all online role-playing games, Scott.
I think that anytime you get more than two people together, there's going to be cultural dynamics that take place. That's why we have organizational communication scholars, right? It's because they're looking at how systems work and why people act the way they act within, interpersonal scholars really look at that. I think that you can't help but have that stuff happen, whether it's literally 3 people or 3,000 or 7,000. How many is AIE now? So
7,000 broken up, yeah.
And I think that, my experience with volunteerism, is that you have to have some sort of a social contract to make that work. People have to understand why they're there, and lots of times people don't. And so, they get into a guild, for World of Warcraft, and it seems like the people who are more able to manage things tend to rise to the top, and they become guild leaders or guild officers or things like that. But that's the same way it works in communities. It's not any different, I don't think.
Well, we all have this idea that somehow the government existed, in some sort of archetypal way, and it has nothing to do with people, that it's this
Right.
entity outside of humanity that we either need to manipulate or rebel against or push or pull, when in fact government is made of people. It's Soylent Green. It is, it is nothing more than our social organization. And every once in a while, the layer is peeled back, and we see what that really means with something like the Soviet Union falling, or
Right.
in less dramatic terms, in various changes in law, like Don't Ask, Don't Tell being repealed. That would have been unthinkable 20 years ago, that you didn't even have Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And so it really is just us. And what, Scott, I think you're privy to is something that most people never get to experience, which is the formation of an organization like that, and the revelation that, wow, all this stuff we complain about happening in government is just natural human behavior. It is the way we work, and it wouldn't happen if it wasn't the dynamic that happens when societies come together.
Well, Larmo CT in the chat room said something very interesting. He says, it sounds too much like real life, and that's kind of sucky. And I think that it sort of supports what you just said. This is who we are, and so this is how we behave. And whether
That's
we're
right.
behaving that way in a game or we're doing it in a government, building where we work, it's the same. And,
Well,
and
that's
I
why
think there's a
if you
lot to
have
that.
the underlying foundation that comes out of, I don't know. It's like the Constitution, right? The Constitution is not a perfect document, but we go back to it over and over and over again. And like when you're in a guild, you have, I hate to call them rules and regulations, but they're responsibilities and rights.
They're
And
charters, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you have drama, which is so fun in a guild, you go back to the basic tenets, and that's what gives you direction. And I think that sometimes, I don't think Stalin really did a good job of setting up the Soviet Union.
But I think at a more simple level, though, it's getting back to the idea of games. Games convey massive amounts of information in very simple ways that people can comprehend, right? So if you think about a game like Civilization, right, just to play on the word, if you were to abstract that and make that into a list of rules for a board game, it would be just huge. But games allow people to get through these complex tasks pretty quickly. And voting has become that. It's become a very complicated thing for a lot of people. Reading all of these things is very complicated. So if they had a way that you could abstract the way they want their country run, if you could say, I would like things laid out this way, I would like these things to happen in my society, and that was to happen through clicking and avatars and cute little metaphors and quests, you could get at what people want far more quickly than forcing them to read things written by lawyers, posted on the wall of the building outside of where they're supposed to vote, right? I mean, if you've ever tried to read a constitutional amendment that's been posted outside of a polling station, it's a dismal thing, right? Unless you've researched it in advance. But you could say, do people want a zoo in their town, right? So, for example, there's a bond to create a zoo. Well, what if everyone in the simulation of their town play that zoo and they send their kids there and they put their virtual currencies there? Well, you get a pretty good idea that people want a zoo, right? And so I think you can sim things and have people simulate the way they want things run in a fun and engaging way more accurately than you can ask them to abstractly vote on complicated concepts that they may or may not understand how they're written. But they could certainly say, I love sending things to the zoo. I realize there's too much traffic in Salt Lake City, so we're going to build light rail, right? And if everyone starts building light rails in their city, you realize, wow, this light rail thing seems to be working out pretty well. Maybe we should build a light rail.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. The only issue I can think of is not everybody likes to play SimCity. And so you again are disenfranchising people who don't like to play the game.
How many
And
people
in
vote?
100 years, everyone would be playing Farmville. That's the point, right? If you think about it right now, everyone's already playing Farmville. I mean, Farmville has 50 million people play it, right?
Farmville.
Have you not played,
you have
Tom? Not
almost
even
a
tried
quarter
it?
of the nation playing these games.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, you have played. You played like Wii, or what is it? We Rule, right? Like it's kind of the same. Yeah. So if it's not Farmville, Zynga's Farmville, we will have all played something like it, I'm afraid. Which is sad and terrible.
Everyone is a strong word in this situation, though. Definitely most people, or a large amount of people, but when you're talking about democracy, you need to be able to have accessibility to everyone, and I'm not sure that you can access everyone with it. I don't think that's necessarily an insurmountable problem for your idea.
Right.
It's just it needs some tweaks. It needs some ways to allow that accessibility, both physical, mental, and motivational.
Well, we all
certainly.
have
But
ports
look at
in our
midterm
brains,
elections,
though,
right? I
by
mean, who
then.
turns out for those? You get less than half the people voting in a midterm election. Right?
Forget midterm elections. How about off-year elections?
Right.
Which are actually the ones that affect you more because they're entirely local. No one votes in them. These are the things that actually will affect your day-to-day life. And here I'm using nobody the way we were just using everybody. Because Corrinne votes. And I vote.
And I don't play Farmville, although Roger made me try Cityville recently.
I made her. There were threats involved to get her to play Cityville.
Yeah. See, well, that's the thing I'm talking about. So there need to be more threats involved to get everyone playing so that it can actually work as a democracy.
Well, I think the point is if you looked at the meteoric rise of these things, that's the point, is accessibility. Whereas Warcraft really is the a step to move away from core gamers, right? So you see a lot of people playing Warcraft who didn't necessarily play first-person shooters or other hardcore RPGs. Games like Farmville have appealed to an audience that is pretty incredible. So, like, you might get someone like myself playing Cityville, but you also might get my aunt who will never pick up a console game, but she'll play it as well. And so already in a very short amount of time, we've seen games that are producing a massive amount of data, but they're also highly accessible. And I can imagine in 100 years, that'll be even more, right? It'll be even more accessible than it is. It's kind of like cell phones from the 80s to cell phones today, right? It just takes the right kind of cell phone and the right kind of thing to get it in the hands of most people.
All right, let's move over to you, Corrinne. Your longer view prediction, no essential timeline, but not the near term, the long term. What do you see?
Okay, so, my predictions are not video game oriented exactly.
That is okay. And you shouldn't be ashamed of that.
I know. It's technology, though, because, technology rules. So my longer term is I'm just fascinated by the ideas of 3D printing. And, I think I saw the figure prints. How that worked. I watched a YouTube thing and just amazing to me. And I think that probably in the next 100 years, we will all have 3D printers in our homes. And I don't think that we're going to figure out how to do Star Trekian, matter transfer, Earl Grey hot. But I do think that we'd be able to see a couch on whatever Amazon is in that time period and say, oh, I like that couch. Here, I'm going to pay for that design, and it's going to come out in my super high-tech, maybe as big as a garage 3D printer.
Okay, so because I was about to say, well, 3D printers are around. That might be a short-term prediction, but couch-sized 3D printer, whole different story.
And maybe
especially
it'll be like IKEA couches. You have to kind of put it all together.
It'll come out flat.
But I think that it won't just be resin. I think they'll have figured out how to make things soft, and I'll get microfibers and whatever color I want, and it'll be, match my 3D printed side tables.
Will I be able to take my old couch and feed it into the printer as raw material for printing out new things?
See, I think that if you had originally printed it,
yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Nice. I like that a lot. You could
so if you move, don't
Yeah.
move your furniture. Just make new stuff the first time.
Yep.
Unless you'd already printed that furniture, then you can feed it back in. But let's say you're starting, it's like, I got my brand new printer, 3000 3D printer at Costco, and I brought it home. Make your couch, make your stuff. 3 years later, when you remodel, shove that thing back into the chipper or whatever the end of it looks like and poop out new furniture. That's a great idea.
Exactly.
I would recommend to the marketing department not calling it pooping out new furniture.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's solid.
You can't have a podcast with a Scott without some sort of,
Oh, believe me, I
Poop
know.
reference.
I believe poop references originated in Utah.
No.
That's why we invented all these new sanitary things to help people out.
No,
kind
but
of
I
problem.
love this idea of like it would just be part of houses. It would be part of apartments. It comes with like a dishwasher, washing machine, 3D printer for your furniture, and then you're like, oh great, you know what? I'm just gonna take all the furniture in my house, pulp it into the machine for the next person who moves in, and or even just like render it down into raw materials that I move the raw materials as cubes to the new place, and then just print out my new stuff when I'm there so that it fits the arrangement of the place I live.
Exactly. And I think that, I'm a girl, obviously, and I like to, buy new sheets and new towels.
If you say so, I don't see gender.
Thanks. Scott can attest, I think.
Yeah.
I just think that we are going to have to figure out how to recycle things much more effectively. And I just love the whole idea of 3D printing. I just think it's, that's the wave of the future.
Lennon 2010 in the chat room just said, oh no, I'm low on furniture ink. Darn. Price for furniture ink is too
Shake
steep.
it.
I don't need a bed.
No, just shake it. And maybe it'll be like
Just
a
shake it.
neighborhood printer. I don't know. I mean, because the couch is a big thing, right? But,
Yeah.
you go down to the neighborhood printer, you pay your thing, you select your refrigerator type, and it comes out.
It'll be like it will be like community gardens, right? Like some people
Right.
have a big enough yard, they can have their own garden. Some people have a big enough house, they can have their own printer, but there'll be like apartment complex printers, like a laundry room,
Right.
and it's like, oh, I live in a complex that has a 3D printer that I can use.
Or you could even mention that you drive to your home, right? Like you could just say rent one for the afternoon.
Yeah, yeah.
And someone could drive up and you could do all of that. Now, what I really want to know is, what do you think, Corrinne, if you have to say wash things before you put them in there? Because that's the ultimate party, right? You print out the plates you want for your party, and you just kind of throw it all in this thing, and then you print out cots for everyone to sleep it off in the morning.
Well, everything will be bamboo by then, right? So I think that'll work. I don't know.
Or
Wow,
will
that
it?
is a prediction.
Will it
Bamboo
be
everything.
Fobu?
Well, they have
Faux
bamboo
boo.
plates that you can, that biodegrade now, and so.
Fobu.
I like
you need
pre-
to get money. You need money for that, Tom, when they do it. That's a great name.
Trademark it. Fobu by Meritronic. All right, we got to take a quick break and let you know that FourCast is brought to you by MailRoute at mailroute.info. If you would like to not have spam, whether you're one person or 100, any size of business, any organization, any family that wants to get rid of the spam, check out MailRoute at mailroute.info. Tom Johnson wrote Microsoft's hosted exchange services. He created the company FrontBridge. It was bought by Microsoft. It's still used to this day. And he went on to create MailRoute to fight spam. You can keep the spam out of your email inbox by signing up for mailroute.info. All you do is change your MX record so that mail goes to MailRoute first. He blocks out the spam, sends the good email on to you at your inbox, and you don't have to deal with it. Blocks, in some cases, 95% of mail, which is junk that you don't need. And no false positives. All the good stuff comes to you. I've resurrected an email address of my own that I couldn't use for over a decade because of the amount of spam. It had just attracted way too much, way too early. And MailRoute was able to save me, and I can use Ace Detect at somebrilliant.com again. Go ahead and email me. If you're a spammer, I don't care. I'm not going to see your message. So check it out. New option for the smallest businesses and family users is $33 per year. Twit discounted price is $29.70. That's just under $2.50 a month. All you got to do to get the Twit discount is go to mailroute.info and learn more about it. Time for the crazy-ass predictions. These are really far out there. Like in 2,000 years, sheep will be made of clay and printed out in a 3D sheep printer or something like that. Let's start with you, Corrinne. I hope I didn't spoil your crazy prediction.
You didn't. So my crazy-ass prediction is a little bit complicated, so bear with me.
All right.
I can't remember exactly what year Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson came out.
Like late 90s, I think.
Yeah. Anyway, I just
90s.
remember when I read that, the whole idea of those suburban enclaves just sort of stuck with me. And I think that by
1992, Wikipedia
92,
tells me. Yeah.
aha. I don't have two screens in front of me today. I think that in 1,000 years, I'm saying 1,000 years, maybe sooner, we'll probably be living in those kinds of things. And so anybody that hasn't read Snow Crash, it's sort of groups of people formed together to live in the 18th century style homes, transportation vehicles, those kinds of things. I think we're going to be living in Harry Potter land or Terminator land, if you want to.
Those are two very different lands.
They really are. They really,
But they're
really
both
are.
Universal, which is nice. You can already go to Harry Potter.
I would choose Harry Potter land.
I think technology is going to be able to create wands for us, and I think that we're going to be able to live in Diagon Alley. So I guess maybe I would prefer to live in a land where magic works. I'm a writer, and so I am constantly thinking about those kinds of things because I write fantasy. And so I think that part of the reason why this sort of gelled in my mind is because I really believe that we as human beings are creatures of narrative. And I think that we want to live in those lands that we, love so much. So, maybe it's going to be Isengard. Maybe it's going to be, I don't know.
This is you saying you get to choose though? Like you're gonna okay.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that
so it's like a theme for your neighborhood.
Yeah, and it'll be based on some narrative that, either something that's huge like Harry Potter, if it was happening now, we could live in Universal Studios, Harry Potter land. But I think that we'll have the technology to recreate those things in vivid detail, and also the magic will work because technology will make it work.
I want to live in the 1940s.
I think you'd be able to.
Except without any of the problems.
World War II?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No World War II, no racism. So, I'd clean it up a bit.
Well, like in Snow Crash, they just lived with the trappings of it, right?
Right, exactly.
It was clothing and, carriages. And I recently was in England and got to see Bath, the city of Bath. And it was like walking back into the 1700s, with Jane Austen land. My sister and my mom did the Jane Austen promenade, and they dressed up with these 400 other people and walked through the city of Bath. And it was amazing to see that because it was sort of like time travel. So
I could see a day if this technology or this option or this whatever happens, and it's, whatever we need to have happen happens to allow this. If I assume, it's going to be a whole new generation of people who don't remember what certain video games of our time were. But I'm to bring it back to games again, I like the idea that I could pick my favorite setting in a game, if it's be it Fallout Vegas or be it something else, and recreate those worlds and live in them, hopefully with multiple lives and saves and things as well.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
World of Warcraft.
But I love that idea, like a real Orgrimmar to be able to walk around in there and hang out.
You have to run every time you get killed.
See, that would be
like really run. Yeah, exactly. That's the health plan.
So that's my craziest
I like it.
prediction.
I would just want to live in IKEA because like my biggest problem is getting things to match. So it would be solved for me, right? I'd just be able to boot up the catalog, move in, and I'd be set.
All the bad meatballs you can eat.
All the bad meatballs you can eat, endless, until my body bug goes off and tells me I can't eat them anymore.
It's your brain by then.
Do you think anybody would choose to live in OS 10? Everything's just,
Maybe.
you've got a little house with the smiley face on the front.
Is that the cheetah version? Are we going to Cougar Land
No,
somehow?
I'm thinking Aqua interface, yeah, but I don't, it doesn't have to be a particular animal. There might be a lot of cats.
There could be, yeah. A lot of mock turtlenecks.
And probably Steve Jobs
Thirsty
still.
wild animals. Yeah.
I do like the idea of it being a theme that you can change too. I mean, I guess it'd be harder as a neighborhood. You'd have to all vote to change, but you could just decide like, I'm kind of tired of the Warcraft land. I'm gonna switch it to a Red Dead
Redemption,
Yeah,
yeah.
You know what I'm
exactly.
talking about.
Well, to raise kids there would be the best part, right? Because you could tell them there really are monsters under the bed. You open that closet and you'll wake up in the graveyard and have to walk back to your room.
You have to run back to your. There's going to be a lot of complaints every time they update the neighborhood. I got
You just have to be
nerfed.
asleep from midnight to 5.
My house only has 3 rooms now. The room got nerfed.
All about balance, Tom. You got to balance the world.
I know. I got to balance the neighborhood. All right, let's move on to you, Roger. Your forecast that is the craziest of your predictions is.
Okay, so I think that eventually, we'll get tired of the 3D printers, and we'll go to all virtual property, right? So if we're getting chipped and we're projecting anyways, or we might just socially get to a point where people get tired of stuff, right?
Well, there's a movement. I don't mean to interrupt you, but there's a movement like that already where people say, you know what, I don't want anything more than what can fit in a backpack.
Right, but I think that I think there is a movement towards that, and that's a sort of a conscious social political thing. But I think that you could really satiate people who aren't that committed by saying you have lots of stuff, right? It just isn't physical. And so I think if you look at just the explosion in recent years of people, buying virtual property, right? I remember a few years ago I did an interview with John Neverdie from Project Entropia, and he was the first virtual millionaire, right? He bought virtual property, a space station, and was renting out places in that space station and making money off of it. And that was fascinating enough, and that was kind of believable. But the more interesting thing was when he walked me into his private apartment in this PlayStation, or in this space station, that only he could go into. And he showed me, artwork on the walls, and he was talking about this art. And I go, it's a JPEG, right? And he says, well, I'm the only person that has this. And I'm going, well, what's to keep anyone from hitting, Control C, Control V, and making endless copies of these paintings? And he's kind of looked at me like, why would they do that? That would diminish the value of it. And to him, that virtual scarcity of virtual property was enough. And so he had this room full of things that he loved that only he had, and he had to invite people into his virtual room to see, right? And I said, well, if that catches on and people love, buying the spectral steeds, and they love buying all these, paying money for virtual gold, I can see a world where people kind of move to the fact that if we all agree what's valuable are these virtual things. It's all that matters, because that's the difference between a pair of Air Jordans and a pair of Shaq shoes from Payless Shoe Source, is what we agree on to make them more valuable or not valuable. So I don't think the physicality of things is going to be important anymore, and we'll move towards this world where we look at each other's virtual property, and that's all we really want to have because it's what's declared to be valuable.
I definitely have changed my patterns of behavior of hoarding with the onset of digital property, right? I used to keep walls of CDs. I don't have that anymore. I have a couple of shelves of CDs that are things that I want to have the physical item itself, right, because maybe it has a really cool booklet in it, or it's a special casing of it or something like that. But really, I've gotten rid of all kinds of things from the physical world because I can have them digitally. This is horrible news for the show Hoarders.
Right. Well, it would be just hard disk hoarders, right? I think that you'd have virtual hoarders. Like when I was playing Warcraft a lot, I mean, whenever snowballs were available, I have a bank full of snowballs, right? Because someday I won't be able to buy snowballs. And so I'm really excited about throwing snowballs at people in World of Warcraft in July. And it was always a letdown. Like, no one was impressed by the fact that I bust out snowballs and be throwing them at them in the middle
I've totally
of the
been
dungeon.
that guy, too. Yeah, I've got the wisp costume maker, except it's January. Who cares?
Yeah, nobody cares. Nobody cares, right? And that's where virtual hoarders will come in. They'll say, Roger, you don't need, 50 stacks of snowballs. And
not to get too wow nerdy here, but since we keep bringing it up, it seems to fit. But in World of Warcraft, my main character is a hunter, and they not that recently, just eliminated ammo as something you had to buy or keep. And now with your gun or your bow, you just fire whatever it fires fake ammo that you don't have to maintain anymore. And that was a huge change in the game. And it used to be I was always buying arrows and stocking them up for raids and things like that. Well, when that change happened, I still had 3 stacks of 1,000 arrows each. And I got rid of 2 of them, and I've kept the other one, and I'll never get rid of it again. In fact, what I've been doing is, if it's kind of stupid, but I'll see somebody I like, and instead of just the traditional bow, I'll open trade window with them and give them a single arrow, 1 frost arrow to this gentleman I've met.
Oh, that's fantastically nerdy.
It's great.
That's great.
And I only have 1,000 of them, so I have a finite number. They're never ever going to be in the game again. You'll never be able to buy them. I mean, this is it.
It's like that. You're like that hippie dude who gives you a feather when you know.
Right.
Yeah. It's like I present you a single arrow.
It's just weird.
But it's like a feather from an extinct animal, though, right? Like, this is a really valuable feather. It's like someone meeting you saying, "Here's a dodo feather."
Yeah, and it's a rare item now. It's very difficult to find. It's fake. It's all fake. But something in that feels valued to me, and I feel like this is just an issue of when do we find the things that that become really valuable to us that aren't really real, that are purely ones and zeros, but they become so valuable to us that we begin to not hoard them, but we begin to place real monetary value the way we would rare items in real life. I don't know when that is, but I think I have an example. I mean, yeah, a company could change that. Blizzard could tomorrow go, we're putting arrows back in. And I'd be just like, okay, well, there goes the value of that. But if they never do, I literally do have something valuable in game. At least it has that weird, kind of intrinsic value. So yeah,
we already have like issues of theft where people will try to steal virtual property from each other, and it wasn't that long ago. It was 2007 where we had a murder of a virtual property where a man in Shanghai killed another man because he logged into his account, transferred a very rare sword, and then sold it, right? And so it's like virtual theft. You took my really cool thing and you sold it, and I was so outraged that I murdered you for it, right? Except before there was no thing involved. And so I think while that's a negative example, I think there's just a strong positive examples that are going to be out there as well, where virtual property will be valuable, and especially as we push people towards it. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, right? You don't have to reduce, reuse, or recycle.
You mean reducycle?
Reducycle.
Yeah, that's a term that's not going to catch on. I can guarantee you.
We're always going to need shoes. It's not like we're not going to need something. It can't be everything is virtual, right?
True.
Because it's cold.
Unless we're in pods or something,
Yeah, unless we matrix it up, right?
Or we already are.
Oh,
bum 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 bum.
That doesn't sound good to me.
There's a 20% chance we're all living in a simulation right now. Just keep that in mind. It's roughly
Take the red pill. Wait, is it the red pill? It's the green pill.
I don't know.
Blue pill.
I don't know what rabbit you're following.
The green one really jacks you up. Do not take the
I'm following Lewis Carroll.
Isn't the green one Dayquil?
Do not take the brown acid. All right, it's time for 4 questions, Scott Johnson.
Whoa, 4 questions is where we ask rapid fire style 4 questions of our guests. They are not allowed to think too hard about it. They have to answer from the gut. And I always start, and I'd like to start with Corrinne. Corrinne, are you sitting comfortably, as is the tradition to ask?
Thank you for asking. Yes.
Awesome. Double reference there. All right, here goes. Corrinne, I will start with question number 1, which is, where is the best place to play Doom till 3 o'clock in the morning?
National Microcomputers.
Yay. It's a total inside reference no one will get.
And unfortunately, it does not exist.
That's right. What
Wait,
restaurant will
that's
still
a past question then. Not you violated something there.
I feel like I'm cheating.
We'll have to go to the FourCast elders with that one. Carry on.
All right. What restaurant will still be serving fast food in 2055?
Taco Bell.
Yeah,
Taco Bell, yes.
Who hasn't seen Demolition Man? Come on.
Who doesn't want to see it
really
again?
want to see that movie. I was forced.
I'm kind of in the mood.
It's
for
a great movie.
Yeah, I like it. It's fun. Finding out that someone has been filming you with security cameras is a good thing or a bad thing?
Bad.
Okay. Again,
I comb my hair a lot.
we had some personal experience with that.
Oh, yes, we did.
Yeah, you forgot about that, didn't you?
I have put that so far out of my mind. Oh, my God.
It's the worst day ever. And finally, here's a future question. I've broken enough rules today. When you become a cyborg, what body part will you replace first?
My ankle.
Whoa,
Really?
Really?
Because I ruptured 2 ligaments in my ankle a couple of years ago, and I can't run now because of it.
Cybankle.
What would you just
Yes.
put in a new ankle type device, or would you try to augment it with something else?
I think that I'd have to just replace the ankle because, cankle's not good. And I'm afraid that cyborgian things would, make it look
A
bad.
cyborg begins with a C, ankle, cankle, right there. I mean,
Yeah, but laser ankles is a pretty neat option.
lays ankles.
Lankles.
Yeah.
I'd like to be able to run quickly because by then there will be Terminators, right?
No, it's a very fair point.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. You passed, and you really just did 5. So nice job. Bonus points.
Scott's he's a rebel. He's a rule breaker. 4 questions, I'm going to ask 5. 4 future, I'm going to ask past. You can't stop me, Merritt. All right. Wow. My dog is trying to catch a fly. I'm sorry. I was distracted. Roger, are you sitting comfortably?
I sure am.
Good. Then we'll begin. Question number 1. 2012 will destroy us, but will it be by weather, nuclear war, disease, or cheese?
Oh, definitely cheese. I think a cheese catastrophe is in our future.
A cheese catastrophe. You are finally one of the people willing to speak the truth. I am so happy.
Well, I think that in 2012, lactose intolerant will be an epidemic, and so that's going to be the end of us all.
The lactopolis.
Oh, man.
The lactopolis. Oh, I love it. Yeah, I think it's on its way.
Question number 2. Will the entire world become one country like at the end of Risk, and why?
I don't think it will, mostly because it'll take so long to get news to the other side of the planet that the other side would have changed.
Yes, but if I control Australia and Alaska.
Oh, that's true. You could stock up, your troops, hoard them,
I think yeah.
In that configuration, the hot stays hot, the cold stays cold.
It's a McDLT of political theories. I see.
But nobody really wants to Irkutsk or whatever the name of that.
Irkutsk, yeah.
And it doesn't work very well for tourism because where are you going to go for vacation?
Right. Well, in the United States.
How are you going to brag? How are you going to be that hipster that says, well, I've been to, Bulgaria?
Seems to work for Utah. Scott.
Oh, that's true.
It's all part of the same country.
Scott never leaves Utah, though.
Oh, that's not exactly true.
I like that you put exactly in there.
Well, they have bad hygiene everywhere else, so it's kind of dangerous.
Speaking of, question number 3. Will self-aware hygienic products one day clean us right off the planet?
Oh, I would say that's definitely true. I think that it's going to be sort of a reverse 12 monkeys thing, right? Where we're so clean that we can't protect ourselves from diseases and we have to send Bruce Willis back in the past.
A dirty, dirty Bruce Willis.
Well, then we're ready now. Let's do it now.
That's right. He's just been baking long enough. Question number 4. Is life just a game? Will it be?
Oh, yeah, certainly. I think that, there are people who are leveling up faster than others. There are people who are just fishing. But certainly life is a game. Yeah,
your Farmville prediction democracy kind of touches on that.
Well, and I kind of require it. I'm sort of working 2 career paths that are all about gaming. So for my own job security, I kind of need this to happen.
All right. You have successfully answered 4 questions. Thank you so much, both of you, for being on. This is a great show.
Well, thanks for having us.
Corrinne Lewis,
Appreciate it.
Program Manager, Entertainment Arts and Engineering, Master Games Studio. Let folks know anything else you want them to know about what you do online.
Well, have me back on again in a couple of years about the body bug thing, and maybe I'll have a book to tell you about.
Oh, really? Do tell. In 2 years when you're ready to talk.
Right.
Roger Altizer, Creative Director, Entertainment Arts and Engineering, Master Game Studio at the University of Utah, and PlayStation Guide at About.com. Thank you for being on the show. What else? Is there anything else you want to tell folks about?
No. But I would like to make a plug. If you like to live somewhere clean and you want to study games, Utah's the place.
Salt Lake City.
Dude. Home of Word Perfect. A Novell. Roseanne Barr. I think I mentioned her. Aaron Eckhart. Who else, Tom?
Nolan Bushnell is a Utah graduate, right?
That's right,
Invented
Nolan
not only
Bushnell.
Atari, but Chuck E. Cheese. So we have the cheese angle in there as well.
Joe Montana.
I love it.
Steve Young.
Steve Young. That's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah.
I knew it was a
He's
San
an
Francisco
ego.
49er
person on the
quarterback.
planet.
Wilford Brimley. Come on. There's so many. I could just keep going all night. But
This
I
episode not brought to you by the Utah Chamber of Commerce. All right, Scott Johnson, besides the Utah Chamber of Commerce, anything else we need to talk about?
No, I just want to thank the listeners and viewers of FourCast, previous to our Twit outing, and also since we've been on Twit, just thank them for a great year of podcasting. I've enjoyed FourCast as much as anything else I've done, and I've had a blast. So thank you, Tom. Thank you, Twit, and thank you, audience, for helping us make this a mainstay of everyone's podcasting diet each and every week.
It's funny, like a year ago, we were just hitting on the idea of recording 3 episodes at once out of our guests to extend the amount of episodes we could get out. And then all of a sudden in July, we came on Twit. We went back to doing 1 episode per guest because we had Tony to help us book people and get more people in. So it's been quite a year of changes for FourCast. But I have second and third your emotions.
Whoa.
I don't know
There's
if that,
another review.
I don't know if that violates Robert's Rules of Order somehow, but don't forget to leave comments about Robert's Rules of Order or anything else you've heard on the show at our website, fourcastpodcast.com, or you can send us an email to fourcastpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next year.
See you next year.
Thanks.
But it's only 32 years away.
You are the most boogieing guests that we've had. You guys totally rocked out there at the end.